Welcome. Thank you very much, Stavros and Ada, for organizing this workshop and inviting me here. It's a great pleasure to discuss and introduce our doctoral school. It's called CO2 Refinery. It's about utilization of CO2, as Stavros has already mentioned. And just as a short announcement, the CO2 Refinery Doctoral School is a TU Wien doctoral school. There are lots of different schemes, funding schemes for doctoral schools. There are national and also international funding schemes that you might know, like the MSCA, ITN, Marie Curie, Sklodowska funding scheme. But this is a funding scheme that we got after the third application here at TU Wien. TU Wien funds doctoral schools with 10 PhD students on a specific topic that should actually bring together different faculties and different institutes and different PIs. Yeah? So that was also the origin and the idea that we worked on that. And we started actually in 2016, 2017 with our first application. Then we called this project not CO2 Refinery, or this doctoral school, but CO2 upcycle or upcycling CO2. It was a different idea then. And then we tried another time, 18, and then finally, when the pandemic started, we were really lucky in 2020 to get this project. So it is a Corona project also, meaning also the involvement of all the PhD into this topic. Background, of course, I don't have to tell you anything about circular economy. The idea of this project, that when I pitched it, was of course bringing this idea from linear to circular economy into it, with green products, with cleaner production, with all these things. That was more or less the initiative, and also, of course, climate change. Now climate change is discussed everywhere. 5 years, 10 years ago, it was a little bit different. I myself was participating in the COP, in one of the COPs in Marrakesh, which was a follow-up of Paris. And then climate change and aspects there were still a little bit less noisy. Now it is noisy, but without any success, as we have seen also in Baku in Azerbaijan. In any case, coming back to the idea and the concept, it was the idea was really to have a transition from a classical fossil refineries, biorefineries. There are lots of these concepts that are already quite well established, and then bring into that concept of a classical biorefinery, whether to produce fuels, whether to produce organics, whether to produce protein, and bring in also the CO2 that comes maybe from a point source, or maybe also in the future from direct air capture. This was not really a key topic, but where the CO2 comes from, the CO2 is just there. So you develop here in high record the technologies and assess it for providing us the CO2 stream in our CO2 refinery concepts. The focus was also not on the direct utilization of the CO2 in this, so without a conversion in a couple of applications that one could do, but rather to look at conversion into fuels. Methane was a topic, methanol, other fuels, chemicals, and also the utilization of the production actually of proteins via microbial or biotechnological processes. So focus was on this, and that was actually also what I pitched when we wanted to get this project and tell this story. Actually, utilization of CO2 when we started with this. Now there are regulations. We heard about that. And what is really CCU by definition? How long is the carbon stored, etc.? All these topics were not so much addressed, but rather what would be a feasible technology. And we wanted also to go towards new ideas. I will show you a few of these in a minute. But there was also one aspect that was important for us in the CO2 refinery concepts that we filed for this PhD program, aspects of scalability. I think that's always important when CCS technologies can be scaled. I have seen today also the high record concepts, the classical amino absorption concept, and also novel concepts that are large scale. Yeah? For CCU or for the utilization of the CO2, and in particular also innovative solutions here, the aspect of scalability is still to be proven. And so that was also one of those aspects where to choose a suitable technology. Competitiveness, another aspect, is such a scheme at all to an acceptable cost marketable? Or could we get a bankable investment from it? Things like that. And of course, also this aspect of climate benefits. And there was an earlier presentation today by Ada on LCA. So also this topic, of course, is very, very relevant. There's one thing that I wanted to also note, and that is CO2 is a dead molecule. So the activation of CO2 requires energy. That energy can be electricity, or it could be also a reducing equivalent. And these reducing equivalents are mostly hydrogen. And when we look at the costs, just here, what it will require actually to be scalable, to be competitive, is really having a compatible and a competitive hydrogen price at some point. This is a study that was published one year ago, but quite interesting also. And I just want to point you to that globally, the next 30 years to come, we will probably see that the average hydrogen cost green hydrogen will be higher than what we see on the blue or the gray hydrogen. For sure. Blue hydrogen with a CO2 coverage, and then the CO2 CCS technologies, and the gray is the classical reforming without any CO2 collection. In Europe, we are lucky. That is at least the prospects that we have or might actually see with the same median hydrogen cost or similar ones, depending also on the electricity cost, that we see that with the rising carbon prices, we may see actually higher costs at some point, and the break even. We had a break even already. That was the Ukrainian energy crisis. So we had that already. But we are down again here. Natural gas is quite cheap again, so all these hydrogen sources will definitely be low. So this is kind of just the systemic or the framework and aspects that were related to the idea of our doctoral school. Now I briefly introduce you what we really do in this school, and first of all give you some key facts. It's a school of 10 PhD students. They were funded for 48 months, and we started in May 2021, and it goes all the way to April 2025. So most of the PhD theses are at its end. So it's now harvesting season with publications and actually research output. We involve 10 different research groups with 6 different institutes and 3 TU faculties. So it's not only Faculty of Technical Chemistry, where you're located today, and where Stavros and myself and our teams belong, but also the Faculty of Electrical Engineering and the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering is involved with PhD thesis too. We have 10 PIs, and here the idea was also to involve younger PIs, which have not yet actually received their tenure. So they were on some tenure track PIs, young ones, with their crazy ideas. And one of these crazy ideas was really to educate in this doctoral school one carbon engineers. So also this one carbon technology was one of those ideas where I said, okay, well, let's convert CO2 to methane, to methanol, to formaldehyde, to whatever, some of these carbon technologies in the first place, which are feedstocks for further conversion at some point. And we brought this together in a scientifically excellent scheme, but also with an interdisciplinary education where the TU Wien doctoral college support is strong in this regard, and furthermore also with a balanced, quite diverse faculty that we have included here. You can also visit our website, www.tuwien.at CO2/CO2 refinery, where you can get more information on our output so far. And so a recommended website for sure. And also we have the idea, or we had the idea from the beginning, to actually bring in different PhD theses that were funded by industry, by the European Commission, in European projects, etc., that also are associated with the topic. What were now the 10 PhD theses all about? This is like a quick scheme. We split this into 3 areas. One area is more or less the upstream side, where either the first activation, also the collection of CO2 was under focus. For instance, also the utilization of CO2 in syngas production is one of those concepts that were actually also tested and realized. The area 2 is a lot about chemistry and biotechnology, which is the conversion of the CO2 and or the syngas as an intermediate into products, with a couple of works. One is towards fine chemical, one towards mixed alcohols, one is towards methanol, which is then a feedstock for the production of mixed alcohols, proteins, nutrients, but also the classical SNG way in a thermochemical Sabatier reaction to form methane was one of the topics in area 2. We have a third area, and we have heard a lot about systems engineering, LCA, economic, ecological, and policy assessment aspects. So also 2 of the PhD theses were in this topic. And there's one which is more technically related, and that is actually to provide materials that can be utilized as catalysts or as carriers for catalysts to some of these conversion routes. Time is short, so I will just briefly introduce you to a few of these, not all the 10, but a few of these theses, and also give you a few beyond also shortly. So one of the first ones by Florian, who is already in his finalization, is a thesis that works on the utilization of CO2 for the biomass gasification. The question is usually, you might know, biomass gasification is usually done by steam to get the producer gas or a syngas that is actually nitrogen free. But the other option is at some point also to include CO2 as a gasification gas, or have a combination of steam and CO2. Now the question is really, is the CO2 utilized at all? Is it activated or not? And so there were a couple of technologies also to use isotopes to see if the CO2 that goes in is really converted or not, or is just passing through and is found in the syngas. These were some of those questions that were answered here. What I can say is it's very interesting. There is a certain amount of the conversion, but it depends very strongly on the reducing equivalents available in the biomass, of course. Another thesis, I'm also involved in that topic, as Stavros has already mentioned. I like separations. As all is done also in the high record project. And here the idea of this one is to use membranes that are functionalized by coating with polymers and introducing also ionic liquids and catalysts to have a membrane reactor. So the idea here is to have membrane reactors such that can actually also utilize energy that is supplied by sunlight or by light. So photochemically activated catalysts is one of those ideas, but also a few others. So actually to have a membrane reactor that takes the CO2 and produces an interesting intermediate, and this intermediate is CO. And as you know, also from toxicity point of view, that's quite interesting, because if you utilize the CO2, for instance, to produce chemicals in a second step, direct intrinsically, it might get and has some advantages in this context. Advantage of CO2 solubility in ionic liquids is one of those points that I actually looked at here. And this is also a project that goes in parallel with a couple of other works. And there's the PI is Katharina Schröder here at TU Wien from the Institute of Synthetic Chemistry. And she received an ERC grant, which is called CarboFlow, so streamlined carbon dioxide conversion ionic liquids. And we coupled this together, and there are quite some very nice and interesting outcomes now. So we have our first operating up and running membranes that can actually do this job at TRL, let's put it, say 3 maybe. Another one is this one here. It's by Gustavo Andrade Silva Alves, PhD number 5. He works on in his research works on new catalysts, and as you may know, the conversion of carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide with hydrogen to methanol is an interesting and really a large-scale industrial topic. And everyone could say, okay, well, I just go there and buy the catalyst because it's there, it's commercial. Here, the concepts are in particular to look at new ways of catalytic activity, in particular for the utilization and direct utilization of CO2. You could, of course, convert CO2 by the so-called water gas shift reaction to carbon monoxide in the first place, remove the water, and then go with hydrogen further with the classical industrial process, these methanol production from fossil carbon sources that's typically. And the interesting aspect here is that molybdenum sulfide is a very nice ingredient into this catalyst, and this research actually results also in a parallel work which targets even also a spin-off, a startup of TU Wien that strengthens this idea. And there is also commercial interest in that topic. Biotechnology is also part. We have 2 biotechnological PhD theses in this set. So actually, to take CO2 and get microorganisms that can convert it to products, and maybe with a pre-reduction conversion into syngas, and then to get formate or methanol, which can further be converted into valuables. What is required here is what is called gas fermentation. So you need microorganisms that actually can metabolize the carbon monoxide and the hydrogen in a bioreactor, with the challenge that the carbon monoxide and hydrogen are usually gases that are very low soluble in the gas. So these are pressurized reactors that are required, and they can do it. And also here we have a good synergy here with an FWF. It's what is called Starting Grant, which is run by Stefan Flügel, and that also supports these activities here. So this is just another picture that actually shows these ideas. Here, target molecules are acetate, lactate, and also alcohols in this project. Proteins, very shortly. Microbial biotechnology is a set of technologies that could actually also utilize CO2 in a good way, or take the methanol and metabolize it towards single-cell protein. So actually, the formation of single-cell protein from a CO2 source could also be an interesting aspect, and that was actually brought into this project. Methanation. I don't tell you so much. It's actually an old technology, but the new part of that technology was really to utilize a new catalyst. Production of methane can be done from hydrogen and carbon dioxide, or hydrogen and carbon monoxide via the Sabatier reaction. And this was also put into the pilot. Here you see our pilot facilities, which are downstairs actually, and where we have a 100 kilowatt gasifier that can be connected to a conversion into methane in a fluidized bed. And classically, maybe you know, Sabatier reactors usually are very exothermic. So the formation of the methane produces a lot of off-heat. So therefore, usually you need a couple of reactors really to have the full conversion. And here the idea was a cooled reactor in a fluidized bed, so that we always operate at the sweet spot of the kinetics in combination with the proper thermodynamics. This was one of those projects. So also here, the catalyst was also produced in-house in cooperation with Gustavo's team and Karin's team. That was also quite a nice topic. The way how it works, no details about the whole process chain from the fluidized bed system actually to ending up in a methane stream that can be utilized here. The supportives PhD thesis in area 3, shortly addressed here. This is a very nice one, actually, with our team in inorganic chemistry, and that is to produce new catalyst carriers. That was also one part. One say, okay, what has this to do with CO2? Yeah, but it's quite an interesting topic to produce a catalyst from with such a pore structure, with a controlled pore structure, by actually using the crystallization of solvents with a precursor for the formation of such ceramics, and that is being done here. And you see here, these are the structures that can be produced. So it's low temperature formation of such precursors that are then heated and converted into such carriers. And there were quite some successful applications to use these carriers, both for the biotechnological conversion and also for the methanol projects. The last one that I want to introduce is this one here. That's an LCA project, but you can ask Diana, who sits here in the back, and she can tell you more about the progress. Is actually looking at various process chains via LCA and give them a rating. With the challenge that we are very low TRL at the moment. So it's almost like a kind of ex ante approach that might be required. Furthermore, also, what we also have is a working together. And one of these interdisciplinary ideas in the CO2 refinery doctoral school was to develop process chains. And this actually gives you an idea of one of those, which was called CO2 MET, where actually gasification, the best new catalyst, and also reaction engineering was actually combined into methanol formation. A short outlook also in aspects that I think that are also important, and what you could comment and criticize in the CO2 refinery doctoral school, we do not have any electrochemistry, or electrochemical conversion. And for sure, this was we considered as an associated topic. We had only 10 theses, 10 topics to decide about. And of course, the formation of methanol, the formation of carbon monoxide, formic acid, that could also be actually attractive for in electrochemical processes, but as well also the formation of ammonia, for instance, as well. And Alexander Opitz here also here at TU Wien is an electrochemist, and he develops processes where actually the formation of ammonia, for instance, is an interesting topic. So I believe that there is more to come with this associated PhD thesis, and with this, actually, I try to close. So out of time already, yeah, I'm ready for any further questions. Thank you.